Hugh, it's Ryan. Just having a bit of a nightmare here at my place. I know we're supposed to be doing the Becky Lucas episode on Zoom today, but my internet's broken. Great timing, right? So hopefully that comes back and we can do that. But if not, there's just got a few things that I'm really hoping you can help me with, just a couple of urgent things. So can you text me a recipe for scones and tell me what the weather is going to be on Saturday? And tell me the name of the actress who played Kimmy Gibbler on Full House. And what movies are on Netflix at the moment in all genres? And what's the longest snake that's ever been seen by anyone? And what are the top 5 best, most recommended robo vacuums 2021 Australia? Hopefully I'll chat to you soon on Zoom, but just a few things that I'm not able to Google, so please help me out. Thanks, Hugh. It's Ryan Shelton, by the way, from the podcast that we do together.
To call back, press 22. To replay message, press 1. To reply, press 2.
We're all imperfect, and on this podcast, I'll be chatting with a variety of interesting people who are willing to make themselves vulnerable by sharing their own struggles and imperfections.
Then we'll discuss the invaluable takeaways we can all apply to our own imperfect lives.
I'm Hugh Van Kylenberg from the Resilience Project.
And I'm Ryan Shelton from my mum.
And I'm Josh from Hugh's mum.
And this is The Imperfects. Well.
Oh, sorry, this is not... Oh, sorry. No, this is a ridiculous time for me to start telling a story. You go, Ryan. Kick it off. I was about to start talking about something that happened.
There was about a 5-second pause, knowing that, okay, we're about to start the episode. Oh, I just want to know the story now, but no, hold off. We're in now. We're in the episode.
Ridiculous timing. And it's not that interesting a story. It's a story about how I went for a walk this morning. That's it. Anyway.
Is that the story?
It was a long walk, yeah. Oh. Anyway.
So as we were about to start the episode, you were about to tell us, you were going to tell us the story. I went for a long walk this morning. Oh, no, actually, I'll save it. Oh, can't wait to tell Jam. Can't wait. Oh, actually, I'll tell her later. She's going to flip. You know Hugh, who I do the podcast with, Hugh Van Kylenberg, yeah. So you know how I just go for walks sometimes. You know I go for walks? She went for a long walk. He went for a long walk. Can you believe it? He said, don't tell anyone. He didn't say whether to tell anyone, so obviously it's... but yeah.
No, I just realised my legs were extremely sore, and I was like, why are they so sore? I went for a long walk, and I was like, I'll tell the boys this. They'll love this. And then
tell
I realised
the
it was
boys!
terrible timing, so I stopped.
Save it for the end of your trip, mate. And obviously this year's award to longest walker goes to HVC Hugh Van Kylenberg, absolute legend. We'll never forget that story.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Sorry about that. Sorry. Let's start.
Let's get into it. So, yeah, Becky Lucas, it's really, really exciting. This is a classic episode, I guess we'd call them. Not a tea house, not an Academy of Imperfection, it's an interview. Becky Lucas, stand-up comedian, hilarious, brilliant. I've seen her a bunch of times at the comedy festival, and anyway, we'll get to Becky. But before we do, I have to thank you guys. It was my birthday last week or the week before. Yeah, about a week ago. It fell the day after the Melbourne Demons won the AFL Premiership, for those keeping count. We won. So pretty good day, pretty good weekend. And for my 40th birthday, it was my 40th, and the other night you guys got me on Zoom under the auspices of recording an episode. Is that the right term for way of using auspices?
Isn't an auspice a place that
under the auspices?
No, I think Ryan's right. I think it does work.
Oh.
Under the auspice of, it's like you can
auspice of
host something.
Maybe I said it wrong. Yeah.
A divine or prophetic token.
That'll do. Under the divine and prophetic token of so you two got me on Zoom under the divine and prophetic token of recording an episode. So that's what I thought we were doing. I thought we were like just recording an episode, just doing a normal thing, and you guys wish me happy birthday. And I'm like, thank you. And then you tell me that you've got a surprise for me. And now a bit of context around this surprise. Very keen listeners of this podcast may remember a long time ago I told you guys about when I was about 13, 14, 15, something like that. And it was on my birthday back then. I was playing basketball in the front driveway with a few friends, and back then I was a Southeast Melbourne Magic fan, NBL basketball fan. And as we're playing basketball, Darren Lucas, the junkyard dog, Darren Lucas, walks past walking his dog and says, do you want to play some basketball? And so he joined us to play basketball.
Number 4 for the Southeast Melbourne Magic, a fantastic defensive player.
He was absolutely, he was Defensive Player of the Year a few times. Yeah, played the Boomers. Yeah. Anyway, on Friday night on Zoom, the surprise that you guys gave me was an intimate conversation with the Darren Lucas live, and it was electric.
The best part about it was, so we just thought, wouldn't it be lovely just to recreate that surprise? You don't play basketball out in front of your house anymore, not that I'm aware of.
No.
But we do a podcast together, so we could do the same thing. We could get him to drop into the podcast, and wouldn't that be great? The great thing was I could see you once he jumped on. Your reaction was just incredible. As he
should we play it? Should we play the?
Yeah, okay. Let's play it. Let's play it. Yeah, let's play it. No. Okay. In fact, no. I've got a story about a walk. No. Okay.
Yeah. Did you go another walk?
No.
Wow. This walk has had some airtime. I tell you what. Jeez.
No.
Sorry, yeah.
What I wanted to say was, as it popped up that Darren Lucas is in the waiting room, like the Zoom waiting room, I had this freak out of is this actually going to are you going to go, oh, Darren Lucas, gotcha. I was like, if Josh and I just way overestimated how good this will actually be. Your response was so good. It was, and I was
all right. Let's. We're not really a podcast that plays clips like this, but this feels very radio. So
it does, doesn't it?
Maybe Josh will have to put in some sort of radio sound to make it sound like it's like we're going to a clip, or something like that.
So far beyond my abilities as a sound guy.
Okay, well, let's see how you go.
Let's
see how you go finding a noise that phases us into Darren Lucas turning up at our Zoom. The other thing you just mentioned it before, we just wanted to say also a very happy birthday to happy 40th, Ryan.
Happy birthday, Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We did.
Is this why we're here? Oh, what have you planned for me? Oh, no. Oh, no.
Well, we have
so many surprises coming up. This is your life, isn't it? I knew it.
Well, we have arranged for one thing for you, just as a bit of a nice surprise. Okay. We have...
Oh, my God. Darren Junkyard Dog Lucas.
Ryan, I remember kicking your ass when you were about 10 or 12.
Oh, my God. Jeez. Do you really remember that? No, you wouldn't remember that.
No, actually, I only did that, I think, once in my career. So,
wow.
So how did it actually happen? Well, what was how the whole thing I don't know who remembers it, but
I think your dad was a supporter of the club.
Oh, wow. God. How are you? You still playing?
I'm sure I haven't. Yeah, I'm still, well, not at the moment, but I play.
You look great.
Playing a team called the Has-Beens.
Oh, good.
Which is Anstey, Sam McKinnon, Andrew Parkinson.
Wow. Slam and Sam.
Shane Bright, Simon Dwight, a couple of other boys. A lot of fun.
Oh, wow. So I just loved it. So thank you very much, guys. He was awesome. He was so lovely. And I already forget the company that he started.
Lux.
What's the company? Lux Coaches. Lux Coaches.
Yeah. He does. He's got his own luxury bus.
Yeah.
Hire like a party bus. and they look pretty awesome. So check those out.
Yeah.
But no, and happy birthday. It was a great weekend for you. The D's win. And then you have your 40th the next day. It's a pretty special weekend, one you'll never forget.
It was amazing. I mean, I was even thinking just the other day, like that episode we did a little while ago, the Just the Three of Us episode, and we were talking about things we were looking forward to. Melbourne playing finals was my one, I think, or one of my ones. And, they
certainly did that.
They certainly did that. They did. They played finals and they bloody won finals. They won all of them. Who cares? Who cares? Whatever.
So anyway, happy birthday and well done to the D's.
Thank you. I'll pass it on.
Yeah. Becky Lucas, our guest for today. I agree with you. She is brilliant. Penny and I went and saw her. My memory is that we were just at the comedy festival walking through the city, and you know how you can just go to things just last minute. There are people who will go here. My memory is that that's how we just chose her randomly. Penny believes that we had heard about her. I can't. It was a long time ago. It was so long ago that I reckon there would have been about 20 to 30 people in the audience. That was it. So possibly 2014. It was really early in her career, and I was
pretty early, yeah.
I was absolutely blown away. And I ever since have followed her really closely, and I just love her comedy because I find it's very unique. And it's she's just so good. I told myself in preparing for this interview, don't be too much of a fan. Like that, she's not going to enjoy that. And I lasted.
Really?
Josh will attest this. I lasted all of about 4 seconds.
Yeah.
The amount of times I told her, how good her book is, how she's the best comedian. Like I really, I really went for it. Like I really told her how good I think she is.
Oh, I've heard it. I've heard the interview.
I think the listeners won't hear it because I will have cut out about half of it by the time it goes to, by the time they're listening to this.
Just so I don't have to turn it into a 2-part episode, we'll have to cut some of the fangirling out a little bit. But I think
anyway,
I think it was very nice. Like I think she was very touched by it. So I think it was worth doing. I think she appreciated it. I would.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready.
So I think the reason we thought about getting her on the podcast, so her manager gave me her book. One of the shows I did earlier in the year in Melbourne, her manager organises my tour around Australia, and when I got into the dressing room, she'd left Becky's book on the little counter there where you sit and do nothing and wait to go out. I opened up just to start flick through, and I actually read I think 2 or 3 chapters before I went on, and it's like it's so good. It's such a great book, so I highly recommend it. It's called Acknowledgements, and it's a whole list of life stories, things that have happened to her all the way from childhood through to now, and they're extremely funny. But there's also, I learnt so much from it as well. She's a deeply insightful person, and that's why I thought she'd be a great person to go on the podcast. She's got some great stories, and as we were just saying before, Josh, she's a very intelligent person as well.
Yeah.
So, do we just play it?
Play.
We haven't done this in a while. Sorry, no, you guys are fine. I have not done this in a while. Becky Lucas, thank you so much for joining us on our podcast. I'm very, very excited to have you as a guest. I guess the first thing to say, usually we used to ask this just as like exchanging pleasantries, but you're in Sydney in lockdown. How are you?
Yeah, I was okay for a while at first. You know, there's something fun about being in a scary time. It makes you feel like nothing matters. Like I love it when things are cancelled. You know, like there's something like I really don't feel, I don't know, there's no better feeling to me than everything having to be stopped. Like I could really easily exist in that state. But it is now getting to the point where I just miss people, and there is an anxiety, like an underlying anxiety. I think the hardest thing is people just expect you to keep doing stuff normally. And I find that really insane, you know, like you'll just get emails like everything's normal about work stuff or whatever. And it's like, I can't leave my house. Like I haven't seen my friend. Like, you know, it feels like the expectation to continue living normally is what stresses me out.
Yeah. I totally understand that. So
Yeah.
the other thing for you is, and this might be a strange place to sort of kick off the interview or a bit fangirly of me, but I've said this to a few people. I genuinely believe you are the most talented stand-up in I told myself not to say this, but I'm saying it anyway. I genuinely believe you're the most talented. I think you're the most talented stand-up in Australia. You must get so much fulfillment and joy from doing your job as a stand-up, and all of a sudden that's completely gone. I'm sure you had a lot of shows that you can no longer do. How are you without the world of stand-up, not being able to do what you're so good at?
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I mean, I think 4 years ago it would have just completely devastated me. I think, you know, stand-up is a weird thing. I think you really are up there looking for a type of, you know, I always think people who are funny, it's not special. It's a deficiency. Like something happened in my childhood or you know, the formative years, and there's a deficiency there, and I used humor to overcome that, and I got good at it, and it is a skill, but it's, you know, ultimately you're seeking something that it's pretty unhealthy. And I think my life is a lot more stable now, and I'm able to find that kind of connection, like human connection and satisfaction other places. So I have been okay to not do stand-up, although my boyfriend reckons I'm so annoying because I'm, you know, I do need positive reinforcement. I need someone to be laughing at me all the time. You know, and sometimes I'll just be feeling low, and it's literally just because I haven't made anyone laugh or whatever. Like I need to have attention in that way.
So it sounds like maybe even deficiency, is it sort of like a defense mechanism, sort of like being?
I think initially, I think for a lot of people it starts out that way. You know, I think ultimately, I think all people are looking for a certain amount of love and attention. And if you don't get it from certain things, then you find other ways to find, you know, I think every skill is literally just about people trying to get attention. Anything that you get good at comes from this basic need of being seen and heard by the people around you. And it doesn't mean it's not valid, but I do think that, you push yourself to be exceptional in something to make up for something that you feel you lack.
Do you have any sense of what it was, if you don't mind me asking, in your childhood that drove you in this sort of direction?
Well, there's the divorce. I'm still not over my parents' divorce. I'm 32 now, and I'll be at a party telling someone about it, and they're like, "When did this happen?" I was like, "Oh, when I was 2." Just one hand behind them, not letting them leave. Yeah, it's absurd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would say it was a divorce, kind of two parents who were very, my mum was like a country music singer, and she was pretty into her own thing, and my dad was, you know, starting his own business, and he had a new family, and so there was definitely, I mean, they both loved me a lot and stuff. There wasn't, it's not that, but there's something about, I was always on the outside because I didn't feel fully at home with my mum. And then with my dad, you know, that wasn't my home either. That was him and his wife and their family's home. So I think it did lead to like an outsider. So you know, even when I always have the sense that I'm not really a part of life. And I don't mean that to sound sad or whatever, but I'm always documenting. Like I'm always like, oh, look at me getting a coffee. This is this is like what normal, like this is something like, look at me experiencing like what it's like to get a coffee, or like, you know, if I get excited by something, I'm like, oh my God, I can do that too. I can be excited about this item like a normal girl. Like it was a feeling, of always being othered a little bit. And so I think when you become analytical, or you're always trying to categorize everything. And I think that, you're never in the moment or something.
So you were 2 when your parents divorced, is that right?
Yes, Hugh, I was 2.
So you don't quite, you wouldn't obviously remember it, like.
No, I don't remember it.
Because it's funny, like the defense, like there's a couple of things that I've heard you say before, which in fact I messaged you this the other night.
Yeah.
Every now and again, maybe once a year, maybe less than that, something makes me laugh so much when I'm sitting on the couch watching television that I actually stand up. I don't know why, I just stand up. And
I've seen it happen.
Yeah, you've seen it happen. Yeah.
Can confirm, yeah.
Yeah. And you're on Andy Lee's show the other night, and the question asked to the panel was, what's something annoying that people do in their cars? And you said, when my dad drives off and never comes back. And I felt like I shouldn't be laughing at that, but it was just so quick. But I can understand how, like, is humor, is it a therapeutic thing for you when you bring people in on that and get people to laugh? Is that therapeutic or?
For sure. And I think that's what always annoys me when people get mad at you about jokes and stuff. It's like this idea that, oh, there's some things you can't joke about. And you're like, no, that's the point. Like, joking is the last thing. Like, that's the thing we can always do. Like, it doesn't matter what is taken from us or, you know, what thing is imposed on us and how shit the government is and how shit your life is. You can always joke about it. Like, it is this, like, safe place that, you know, like, jokes aren't supposed to be commercially viable and make everyone feel comfortable and stuff. It's supposed to be about 2 people connecting over a shared experience, and often that is dark.
Yeah, totally.
And so it's definitely therapeutic in that way, for sure. Yeah.
And what about, just to go back to your childhood, so the parents' divorce, obviously really challenging for you to grow up and try and make sense of the world when you're sort of living with
it sounds so basic to be like, my parents, you know, I remember being little and people being like, oh, divorces are, you know, it's not good. And I remember being little thinking, oh, it's fine. Like, you know, this is just life. But it's when you get older and you realize what isn't normal. And I think often there is something about the inconsistency of people coming in and out of your life. Like, I think when someone leaves for good, like they die or you never hear from them again, you can kind of move on from that easier than the inconsistency of seeing people, you know, on and off. So it's like having to adjust. The hardest thing was having to adjust. My mum and dad are so different, and it was a constant readjustment of like, what does mum want me to say if this thing happened? Like, what will make her happy? And then being with my dad and being like, well, he doesn't think like her. If this thing happens, what can I say that would make him happy? So it's like you're constantly servicing 2 different people with very different, you know, beliefs, like values and stuff. So I feel like I grew up not ever really knowing what I felt about stuff because I was always playing, you know, and that's why I'm really contrarian too. Like, I can argue with someone for hours about something and then I turn around and argue the opposite with someone else. Like, it just, I'm not attached to ideas.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've kind of learned to work a room from a very young age as well.
Totally. But that's so anxiety. Like, lately I do think I do it less. When I was young, I was always so exhausted because, constantly trying to, I'm like, I know that I have it within my power to please everyone. Like, I could say everything and I know what that person would want to hear and I know I could make them very comfortable. But it was always at a great cost to myself. I was always so tired after parties and whatever hangouts and stuff. And now lately I have stopped doing that. Like, I'm like, I know I could say the thing to that person that would make them feel amazing, but I actually don't feel like doing it.
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I've told you this before, but I finished reading your book Acknowledgements a little while back, and it's the only book in the history of my life that I finished and then just went straight back to the first page in the same sitting and started reading again.
That's so nice.
Well, again, I said to myself when I was like thinking about this interview, don't come across too much of a fan, but I think
please, I need it. I'm in lockdown.
and so there's a couple of books I've read twice in my life, but never once have I gone from the last chapter to the first chapter in the same sitting. And the
other one was Mein Kampf, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I remember it's one of those books where Penny, my wife's lying next to me reading her book, and I just kept stopping honestly, I'm not exaggerating. I reckon every 3 or 4 paragraphs I'd go, "Hey Penny, just quickly, I'll just read you this bit. You'll love this bit."
That's so nice.
Because I actually reckon this is the thing that I think a lot of people, if they see the cover, they go, "Oh yeah, comedian's book." But what it is, it's as vulnerable as I've ever heard a comedian in this country. It's so vulnerable in your own really clever and witty way. I found it such a great self-help book. Like I don't like self-help books, which sounds silly because I guess I kind of wrote one, but I'm not a big fan of them and they make me feel a bit weird.
Yeah.
But yours, it snuck up on me. All of a sudden I was like, about 3/4 of the way through, I was like, oh my God, I'm gaining so much from this. The most amazing story to me, and feel free to tell it because but so many people here wouldn't have heard it, but
yeah.
The story of Heather's dad and his daughter that came from England, Murphy's Law. An extraordinary story. It was incredible.
That was.
Please tell us.
Yeah, so basically, I just had a friend, and her mum had gotten married to this English man who she's not with anymore, and he had his daughter from England come over to stay, and she was just a pain in the ass, like really prissy English kind of girl. She lived in the sort of place. I think I remember her telling us that they had cleaners that used to wash, dry, and iron their sheets every day.
Every day,
which was absurd. And then she came to Australia to stay for a couple of months, and we were really excited, and she was awful. She was so mean to us. And also my friend lived it's truly an eco house. Like it's kind of built around trees, and there's a drop toilet, and it's, there's like geckos, and it's very indoor, outdoor. And she hated it. She hated staying there. She hated Australia. She was always hot. And she was, it all sort of culminated. Like she always used the expression Murphy's Law wrong. Like we'd be doing something and she'd go, well, it's Murphy's Law, isn't it? And it's like, well, no, it's not. No, like that's not Murphy. I have a suspicion that a lot of people don't really understand the saying Murphy's Law. She always used to say it, like we were playing outdoor tennis once and she kicked her toe and she said, well, it's Murphy's Law. I was like, no, you've just stubbed your toe on the bitumen. That's not, that's just, that's Australia. But she was, she was always really freaked out about the animals and stuff. And anyway, we were sitting around one time and she started crying and she wanted to go back to England and her dad didn't want her to go. And she said, I hate it. I just hate it here. There's snakes and lizards and it's just disgusting. I hate Australia. And as she said that, the roof, the cracks started appearing on the roof and a snake fell from the roof onto her shoulders.
Oh, my God.
It was unbelievable.
That's kind of Murphy's Law, isn't it?
Well, exactly.
Yeah, ironically.
Yeah. I was like, there you go.
There's your example.
Yeah. You English bitch.
But, that's how Becky finished that chapter with like an acknowledgement to say thanks for teaching me, for giving us a real life example of what Murphy's Law actually is.
Yeah. Us dumb Aussies couldn't figure it out. We needed you to come and explain it. But yeah, that was crazy.
What you said in your book, you operate from and you said it in a way of like not an alarmist way, but you did say at one point you operate at a base level of depression.
Yeah.
Can you sort of explain it? Can you kind of explain that? And I ask it in a lighthearted way because I know it wasn't meant to be a really heavy topic that was meant to like that wasn't you saying everyone I'm a one, I need help. I understood that.
Yeah.
But can you sort of describe that?
How to describe it? I guess I just feel like my base level, and it's not even depressed. I do feel like, because I absolutely feel happy sometimes and like I can rouse myself into a good mood. But I think I just mostly operate from like cynicism and depression, and it's kind of scary because I do feel like you start to think that that's your personality. you're like, oh, I'm the one that comes in and says like something cynical or something like sarcastic. And I think that it doesn't have to be like that. I think if I did more therapy or whatever, I would be able to divorce that from my personality. But I seem to gravitate towards people who are like that. Like I have lots of funny, great, fun friends and we have a lot of fun. But ultimately, we all understand being in that lower place or something. Like there's something about being, just a bit depressed. But and I cringe at like corniness. I cringe at people getting swept up in a kind of like I think more people should be a little bit more depressed. Like not in I don't think I'm depressed in a harmful way, but I think too many people they're able to be manipulated or whatever into like false feelings of happiness. Like cynical marketing ploys and stuff where it's like, hey, we're all in this together and stuff. And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like, I don't know. I'm just not someone who can ever be taken in by that sort of thing. My first instinct is to make fun of it and to analyze it. But I think that leads to depression because I think once you realize how absurd everything is and how things operate, you just can't be tricked. And I think a lot of happiness is trickery. But you find I find joy in other things. Like I do find joy in nihilism a little bit. I find, I don't know how to explain it.
Do you have siblings, Becky?
I have 2 half sisters.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a bit random, but did you always try and make them laugh when you were growing up? Like, and when you were talking about your parents thing before, was that like saying the right thing to keep everything like normal, or was that trying to entertain them? And
I mean, I had volatile parents.
Okay.
Yeah, they were pretty volatile and susceptible to mood, like my mom especially, mood swings and stuff. So that was like where I learnt to regulate or feel responsible for regulating someone's feelings. And my dad could be like that as well. But my sisters were born, I'm 10 years older than, like, they're 19 and 21.
Okay.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, okay. So there wasn't that relationship growing up in it together kind of thing.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, we still have a bit of a relationship and stuff, but not the same as I think proper siblings.
I know what you mean. It's a different, very different. I was so fascinated by this idea you said before, the always on the outside thing and documenting. And have you ever felt not like that? Like, is there moments or relationships or things in your life where you're like caught yourself almost by surprise going like, I'm inside now?
Yeah, totally. I mean, my friendships are really important to me, and I have really great friends where I feel very like in the moment, and I'm like, for once I'm not like I'm having fun, like I'm like actually myself, and it is really joyful and fun, but never in a like family setting wise. I still feel very outsidery. But yeah, with friends I do feel pretty like present. I think that's the biggest thing, is trying to be present. It's so hard. Yeah.
It sure is. I've always struggled with that. I'm trying to get better.
Yeah.
But it's tricky.
It is tricky.
Especially when you like, I'm certainly feels weird to compare because I'm obviously not you and not a comedian. But I think for anyone who enjoys analysing and documenting and looking at the world and trying to work out how it works and feeling a sense of identity and a certain skill of being able to do that, even if it's not in a funny way, just in a way of thinking what's going on there. That, as you said before about Hugh's identity, that's kind of become part of your identity, so it feels hard to stop doing that and just be a part of it, because it's like you're losing part of what makes you special or unique, maybe?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's
it
all.
Is. Yeah, it is. No, that's good. I mean,
one word answer.
No, yeah. Sorry, what was the question? It's about.
Well, I guess the question was, do you think that is, does the documenting thing stops you from being present? Like that's the challenge, is
absolutely.
to be present for sure. But
yeah,
I don't
because I'll look
is.
at an old man on the beach fishing, and I'm like, he's just an old man on the beach fishing, whereas I'm like, oh, this old man on the beach. You know, like I always wonder how people make the choice to live their life. How do I phrase this? Like, I find it so hard to make decisions because I'm like, whatever I choose to do in life, I feel like I'm just making a choice. I don't even know if that's the right thing for me to be doing. I'm like I've always felt like everything that other people have will never be for me. I'll only ever be able to witness it or view it but I find it hard to actually live life because I'm like, sometimes I wish I was just hovering above watching everyone else do it, but never for me. Like, never do I want anything for me. I wish I was just watching it, which I think is a weird space to be in. Yeah,
so you're not craving that. You're happy watching.
Yeah, I'm happy to watch. Like, it's almost like I could watch myself have a kid, but I fear that I wouldn't be in the moment of like and I'm sure I will, but it's a fear that like I'm always a little bit detached or I'm always a little bit outside of myself.
Is that kind of the role of a comedian, like to sit back and watch and then package observations into an entertaining
I think
3-minute bit, you know?
Yeah, like I don't think what I'm explaining is particularly unique. I'm sure someone's sitting there being like, I could describe this so much better. But I do think there's like an outsider feeling. And I have other friends who've expressed the same thing, where it's like you're just watching all the time with this goal of explaining it. Like I was always like that growing up as a kid. Like I'd be having a really funny experience or something would be happening, but I was stressed out because I was like, I have to write it down or I have to make sure I remember it to tell someone else. Like there's always been this fear of something happening without documentation, which, you know, it's unhealthy. Like life should just be about experiencing it and, you know, maybe telling a friend at drinks or whatever. But it's this fear I have that like funny things or like amazing things slip by and no one has witnessed it. It's like, I have a real fear of people not witnessing amazing stuff or good stuff or like poignant things. But
So what age did you decide that you wanted to be a comedian, and how old were you when you made that decision, and what brought about that decision?
I was always like funny, and then I'd gone traveling and I just felt that I was, you know, I guess I was aware that like my skill in being able to talk to people and be funny and stuff was really rewarded on the trip. Like I was getting a lot of laughs. And I suddenly was like able to be like, I'm good at this. Like I'm actually quite funny, which I'd always been, but it was obvious. It just became more obvious to me that I was like doing well socially. And then I got back to Australia and I had a friend who was doing stand-up and then I asked them about it and they just booked me on a show, and so it was just kind of decided that I would do it. And then you just get into it.
What was the first gig like?
It was okay. It's the most nerve-wracking thing ever. It's so scary. Like that first time, you just can't, for weeks before, like the thought of it is just so scary.
Is it still?
No, it's not as scary as that. It's a little scary, but depends. Like the thing is, you're so scared because you think the worst, if you bomb, it's the worst thing ever. And it's like once you realize that if you bomb and they're not going to take you around the back and shoot you in the head, it's like
the shooting was done on the stage.
Yeah, it's like nothing. You continue to live. The worst thing is that someone's like, "Oh, that wasn't good." And once you can deal with that, you can just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it quite helpful to, if you don't have an ego that's out of control, like I would sometimes get told, and what I do is very different to you, but sometimes I'd hear someone say, no, I wasn't a big fan of that. Early on, I'd be like, what the fuck? What do you mean? Everyone else likes it. Wasn't? And I get really upset about it. And then I think someone said once, I was doing it for a group of train drivers in Sydney, and there was like 300 train drivers. As I was leaving, I heard this guy said to his mate, as I was walking past, he goes, well, that was a fucking waste of an hour. And as I was walking past, and I was like, and I said, oh, sorry, mate. And he goes, and I thought he was going to go, oh, I'm so sorry. No, I did but he did. He just doubled down. He goes, yeah, I didn't think it was very good. But then I was like, do you know what? He was actually right. I didn't want to be here either for this one. I didn't do a good job there. And I said, no, do you know what? It wasn't great, was it? And he kind of laughed. He goes, not really. No. And I agreed with him. Yeah. And all of a sudden I was totally fine with it because I was like, wow. You know what? He's right. That wasn't very good. I can definitely do better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, this probably won't go in the final edit. I'm just discussing something that's interesting with you.
I mean, people often people don't know how to express something. So he might have picked up on your vibe of not really being into it, and he wasn't able to differentiate that he could feel that he could feel you weren't into it. So he just goes straight to that wasn't good.
Yeah.
And so we write him off, we write people's opinions off, oh, they're just, didn't get it. But it's like, no, you correctly identified that this man had felt something was wrong. He just didn't know how to vocalize or verbalize that feeling.
Yeah, totally.
It's like sometimes people, someone will write something sexist or whatever on a video of mine, if there's a clip or something. And often I'm like, you know what? When I post something that's really funny and I think is really funny, I don't get those comments. But I think that when a man sees something, and it might not have been my best work, and it's not funny, and I admit it's not funny, so he doesn't know how to vocalize that. So he's like, you're a woman. And I'm like, that's not the problem. I agree with you. This isn't my best work, but you don't know how to express, you felt that I wasn't being authentic, or you felt that the joke just didn't hit. But instead of
there's only one motive.
Yeah, but instead he's like, oh, it's you're a woman. And I'm like, no, it's not that. I'm like, you are clever. You're right. You're actually right. I fucked up. I didn't do a great job then. But they're not quite, they haven't got enough of a vocabulary to explain that it was a lack of authenticity or a lack of just the joke hitting.
So this really fascinates me. Being a female who is who puts a lot out into the world, and it's really, really good stuff. I just feel like you become a target, for what's the guy's name? Was it Crazy Horny 58?
Yeah.
Can you tell that story? Mainly, again, I please feel free to tell all the stories from the book because they're so good, and for me, it's a treat to hear. It's a treat to hear them again. So,
I know. I get so scared telling stories again and again, though.
Basically, speaking to someone who's made a living off it, so you're fine.
Yeah. Oh, me too. The story about that is this guy had just written to me online saying you're a bad woman, and I was like, oh, what? And usually I don't really care, but I was just in a bad mood, and I was definitely looking to be hurt, so I was rooting around the comments, having a look at who was saying what, and his username was so funny to me. It was like Crazy Horny. It was actually something else. They made me change it for the book, but it was Crazy Horny something else, some other configuration. And I searched his username and I found that username in a sex doll forum. So it's these guys with their real dolls. The ones that are pretty expensive, high tech. And it's this forum where all these men who have their dolls and stuff, they chat to each other and post photos and stuff. And there was a few things about his profile that made me believe it was the same guy commenting. And it was so good. They just love their dolls, and this is a place. It's like a safe space for them. It wasn't, not till I got there. And Crazy Horny 64 had posted this photo of his doll, and her name was April, and he was like, here's a photo of me and April. We're watching TV tonight. She's letting me pick what we watch, and I was like, oh yeah, Star Wars again. like they try and make it out like that, you know, the women are still the ball and chain. Like, it's like, oh, better get home. My doll is there, lifeless, waiting for me. So good. So I was just kind of like, oh yeah, like that's who can be commenting, you know. Sometimes criticisms are valid, and sometimes it's someone who is having sex with a chunk of plastic. So
I think there's something in that for all of us. I think we can all remember that the next time we get upset about something we read.
Oh, totally.
just remember Crazy Horny 64.
Yeah, and the amount of loneliness that exists in the world, like, you know, yes, I think people always want to be a victim. You know, they're like, oh, you know, the comments I get and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, I am putting my stuff out there. And that doesn't mean people can be mean, but, you know, I need to take responsibility for a certain amount of, like, I'm not going to sit around being like, oh, this person said this or this person said that. It's like I could, and I could definitely generate some sympathy, but, like, I need to take responsibility for the fact that a lot of these people, you know, live very lonely lives. I'm putting my stuff out there. I'm able to do or to have a career that's, like, incredible. You know, I'm very lucky. So I try not to dwell on the comments and stuff too much. It's, you know.
Although they do create great material by the sounds of it sometimes.
Oh, yeah, it is great. You know what the worst thing is? Like, so many female comedians are always like, oh, I get sent so many dick pics. I've literally never been sent a dick pic. But I know. Well, you know, at a certain
shout out in the episode if you want.
At a certain point, it's like insulting. Like, and you know what? It was so funny. One time, I went into my message requests, and this guy had written, "Hey Becky," because I talked about this in a show or something. He said, "I've heard that you're upset because you don't get dick pics. I've got something for you." And I was like, "Oh, here we go. This is so exciting." So I go to open it up, and he's like, the second part of the message is, I've entered a short story competition, and it's kind of a sexy story, and I was just wondering if you could read it and give me notes. And I'm like, oh. So it was this story about his dick, but I'm like, fuck, I don't even get dick pics. I get dick lit. like, it's so annoying. I'm like, it's very nice that he respects me. He wants notes, but, like, please sexualize me, degrade me like the others.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, you go, Josh. You go.
I just want to ask. I've got this thing in my brain, and it's like such a cliche, but I wanted your thoughts on
peanut?
the cliche.
No, I'm kidding. Sorry, Josh. I'm too comfortable. Too comfortable already.
No, it's good stuff. The cliche of, like, the damaged artist, like the musician who's had a hard upbringing. And that's what makes them great.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of fascinated on your take on that, in the idea of in what you do and getting therapy and working through things that may have driven you in the past or drive you, and whether if you take away the sharp edges, so to speak, whether you can still do your job as well, and your thoughts on that whole cliche thing.
Interesting. I used to think, that you had to be unhappy to be funny or whatever. I think it helps you develop a skill. I think being unhappy or whatever helps you to connect, like, especially with comedy, it can really help you get there. But I don't think that means you have to be unhappy your whole life to be able to make good stuff. Like, I've been in both, I've been really unhappy and my career's gone great. And then I've been happy and my career's gone great. I think, I think when you're unhappy, you throw yourself more into the work. But then I think when you're happy, you are experiencing people and life in such a way that you can translate things more. Oh, yeah, I think they both.
More,
yeah, I think you can connect to people a little more because you're open and I mean, a good example is I was in such a good place when I did Conan O'Brien. I was so happy, and I felt like nothing could stop me. Like I was just in such a good place that I was like, I don't care if this goes well because I'm so happy. Like, and I really wanted to just connect to people, and I was really excited to be there, and that really helped me in that moment. But then there's been other times where I was really unhappy, and it also just helped to share that and be fun. I mean, I'm also very drawn to like darker stuff or you know, stuff that really like pushes the boundaries, and so that's always been my goal. And but I also like light, happy, funny stuff. I don't know. I think you can be both. I don't think you need to be the I think if you're genuinely tortured, that sucks. I think what's bad is when people think they have to be unhappy and tortured, and they kind of cultivate it, because you can learn how to be unhappy. I think I had a bit of that in my life. I've like learnt to indulge being unhappy.
So. And you can get there and then sort of be, without realizing it, get yourself stuck.
Yeah, totally.
in that frame of mind.
Yeah.
It sounds like what you're saying is that you just need to, and maybe I'm getting this wrong, but it sounds like you kind of just got to be authentic and genuine about the way you're feeling and tapping into that and experiencing that.
Yeah.
Whether it's being happy or sad.
That's the thing. And I also like artists that are like, I feel like this at the moment, and I'm going to do art that reflects that. And I feel like this at the moment. You know, what I hate is someone who's like, I won't say names, but anyone who brands himself as like the happy guy and I'm the nice guy. It's like, even though they're not, and they get on stage and they put this mask on, and it's so false. Like, I hate that. I'd rather someone be like, I feel like shit today and this is how I feel, and blah, blah, blah. And then the next time they're like, I'm happy. And like, I want to be getting I want to feel like it hasn't been processed or whatever. I want to feel like this raw conduit. I like to feel the person's a conduit for how they're feeling, and they're able to make it funny in that moment. But that's just my personal, not everyone likes that. Like, I think a lot of people don't really like to feel uncomfortable, but I'm not really one of those people. And
I think a vast majority of people don't want to be challenged too much.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Like,
Then
so many people just want to feel good at.
Yeah, and that's fair enough.
Life,
you know, people got to go to job. That, you know, I think comedians forget so many regular people, like, they got to go to work. They've got kids. They've got all these pressures on them, and you know, there's a lack of job security, and you know, things have gotten a lot worse for people in general in terms of like their job and feeling safe and feeling like they have community. And so I don't think you can blame people for just wanting to turn the fuck off and not be challenged.
But then the contradiction to that is that I think what people want most is an authentic connection with the person that's on stage or performing.
Yeah.
And you only get that when they show up, take the armor off and say, yeah, not great at the moment, or so good at the moment. And they tell you, I guess it's taken me a while to learn this, because I've felt enormous pressure to be the guy telling everyone how to be okay.
Yeah.
And so when I don't feel good, I've been like, I'm just going to pretend that I do. And I've noticed that I get really anxious before I go on stage when I'm not feeling great, and I'm about to talk about feeling great.
Yeah.
But I've learned very recently the power. It's so much more powerful when you are very open, like, you just, this is how I am, but here's some stuff for you. I hope you enjoy it. It leads to a much richer connection, for sure.
Yeah. And anxiety always is, I'm my most anxious before I do stand up if I feel like I'm about to get up and do material that I don't believe in, or that I don't feel like delivering, because I think anxiety comes from trying to adapt to, or you're living your life and in the wrong way, or you're about to live and do something that doesn't feel right. And that's why so many people have anxiety, because we're living in a way that's like, this isn't right. Like, why am I going to work all the time? Or why do I feel like I have to buy these things? And I think anxiety is definitely, you know, we're always treating the symptom. I feel like we're always treating the symptom of anxiety and not the cause, which is like, most people probably don't feel like they're living their life the way they should be, but it's very hard to know what you actually want. Like sometimes I know I'm not living, I'm like, I know I'm not being truthful to myself, but what does that mean? And, you know, how do I fix it? And it's very hard to fix it. So you just treat the anxiety, or like you take the medication, or you do the meditation and stuff, because it's very hard to address what's actually wrong.
I found when, I think you kind of alluded to this at the very start, but I found when the initial lockdown happened at when the first start of last year, I felt this sense of relief straight away when like everything just stopped and slowed down, as you were kind of saying before. And it was kind of like, fuck, finally I don't have expectations on me that I have to achieve this week.
Yeah.
Like
I can just, oh man. And I love nothing more than a cancelled plan.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And it must speak to something about the way that our lives are structured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a feeling of being a kid again. It was like, oh, it's holidays. Like,
there's nothing on.
Yeah.
There's nothing in my calendar.
Yeah. It was really like novel.
Becky, does the thought of performing again excite you, or do you find it?
Oh, it's a hard question. At the moment, no, because I feel like I've got nothing to say. I've got a couple of ideas for jokes and stuff, but you know, you're the most excited when you've written a really funny joke and you just want to go and see if it's funny.
Yeah.
Maybe I could try it out on the show. No, but
you're very welcome to.
I won't. But yeah, I am. Sometimes I get excited. I don't know. I have a real I fear stand up a bit. Like I'm always like, oh, I don't want to do it. And then I do it and I love it. But I think that's anxiety. I think anxiety makes you like, I'm always like, oh, it's going to be shit. I'm going to be shit. And then it's good. But I think you're just kind of saving face. Like you're just like telling yourself it's going to be really bad, because then, you know, I don't want to dare to dream it could be good. I don't want to set myself up for failure. So I always complain about something until I've done it well, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I love this. But up until the point I've done it, I'm always like, oh, it's not going to go well, because I don't want to jinx it, or I want to. If it does go badly, I can be like, well, I knew it. So it's very unhealthy, but that's just who I am.
Do you take a lot of joy from seeing how much joy it brings to other people? Does that light you up?
Yes, I really do, and that's, I think, the reason. Like, I think so many stand-ups at the moment are like, can't wait to go back. Can't wait to get back on the stage and do the same shit I've been doing for 5 years, you know. And whereas I don't have that, I'm like, I can't wait to feel that I can make a genuine connection with people. I'm not craving the attention or the adulation of stand-up, but I am, you know, I really do love it when I get to a crowd and that everyone's so different, like so many different demographics, and my crowds are always such different demographics. Like I can never pick it. And just for this one moment, it's like we're all as a group laughing, because it's really fascinating. Like a crowd will never be the same crowd ever. So like that same, like you will never get the same configuration of people ever again. Each crowd is new. It's a new energy, and they're all creating it together. Yeah. You know, that person will never sit next to that person. That person will never be like, so to be able to like figure out who the crowd is and be in that moment and you're all laughing about this particular thing, I think it's so lovely. And I love that about stand-up. Like I love that about, you know, just pure jokes or like being funny, is that it doesn't always have to be political, or it doesn't have to be about the big topics. Like I think in stand-up it's been a real thing to be like, oh wow, the show was about this really dark thing, and it's like, I don't think it has to be like that. I think it's actually really cool to just joke about dumb shit, but for this moment we've all come from different, you know, it's different races, different class backgrounds, different whatever, and all, you know, someone's lost a parent, someone's lost a child, but that doesn't really matter. Like in this moment we're sitting there and we're laughing about the same thing. And like what is more what is more, it's so beautiful. I think that is deep to get people alone in a room after whatever day they've had, and to make them all fundamentally understand a concept and be together in that, because we do lack so much community, and there's so much identity, people splintering off into like, well, I believe this and you suck if you say this thing. And there is real community in laughing about a dumb thing that we can all agree on.
It's also
it's nice.
A great skill, and it's a great skill that you have in spades, like to be able to get up in front of a room of people and bring everyone together through laughter. It's a nice thing to do, but it's also an incredible skill,
thank you.
which you have, as I said at the start, I think better than anyone in this country. So we hope that who knows when you'll be back on stage, but you do spread joy when you are on stage. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all the wonder, and the book Acknowledgements by Becky Lucas. It is
yes.
I think
please buy it.
It's incredibly funny, but also very poignant, and some really beautiful life lessons in there that you have shared.
I think you're right. Like, I think people get turned off by it being from a comedian.
Well, I don't know if they get turned off. I think like a lot of people go right, I've got a book from like Nelson Mandela or like, it's like, I don't think people get turned off by it, but I think they expect a certain thing.
Yeah. They're like, oh no, I did a fart. And then everyone, it's not like that.
Well, I'm not buying it then.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
I couldn't recommend it more. As I was reading it, I kept saying to Penny, "This is the best book I've ever read in my entire life."
Oh my god, that's crazy!
And then I had to not read it because I was trying to write my own book, and I was like, "Fuck, this has really challenged what I think a book should be." So congratulations on everything you've done.
Your book has sold considerably better than mine, so let the audience be the judge of that.
Yeah, well, what would be interesting though would be to ask people who have read both books what they thought of both books. That's the real litmus test.
Yes.
It's not about book sales. So, Becky, thanks for joining us today. It's been a real thrill for me, and it's been lovely.
Thanks, Hugh, and thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Becky. That was amazing.
Awesome.
We're all right.
God, she is so funny, isn't she? I mean, not a surprise. I'm not surprised at all. But some of those, like the Mein Kampf joke is so good.
It was so
it's
good.
So good.
I'm right in saying that was Hitler's book, wasn't it? Well, no?
Yes.
Adolf Hitler's book. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Because I was 96% sure it was, and I laughed a lot thinking if that's what the joke is, then that's extremely funny. So I'm glad I got that right.
Yeah, no, you laughed the perfect amount to not seem like a supporter of Hitler.
Yeah, okay, good.
So it was perfect. Okay, you really nailed it, yeah. I reckon any more laughter and you'd be questioning, oh, hang on.
He really has read the book.
What's that about?
Yeah,
Loves that book.
Yeah.
So the thing that interview really got me thinking about was because, I mean, she brought up there were so many different topics and little themes that were covered in that. Trying to chat about what we could actually talk about. And Josh mentioned comedy, and I think it's a great thing to talk about, like the power of laughter.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that we know changes your mood. Like and it happens very quickly. Like when you laugh, you just feel your emotions shift straight away. It's such a powerful thing. I found this. Sorry, you're about to jump in.
No, I was probably just going to ask you a question that you're probably going to answer anyway. It's probably because you put your head down to read something, and I'm like, oh, you're going to go into that. I was just going to ask, is that a scientific thing? Because we all know that when you laugh, you feel better. But I bet you're about to say this. You're about to say exactly what I'm asking. But
well, I've written stuff down before, so I could actually. Yeah, I had written stuff down, so I could. Yeah. So
yeah. Oh, now you want me to ask the question?
No, I thought you were gonna keep going. Gosh, we are rusty.
Do you think we've ever been more off than we are tonight?
No, this could be the most off, and that's saying something because we have been off very often.
We're late in the season. We're fatigued.
I think it is.
Yeah,
it is,
we're having that kind of like slump.
It is extremely hard over Zoom, I have to say, to get the timing right of a conversation when we know, Ryan, you're a bit behind on this. as in the timing of the Zoom setup is a bit slower.
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's very hard to get it spot on. But anyway, we are doing our best under slightly difficult circumstances.
Yeah, but all I was going to ask was, is there scientific research data to back up the fact that when you laugh, you feel better? It seems obvious, but I'm sure there's hard facts.
Yes,
and that's what
there
I
is.
like. Hard facts. Give them to me.
So let me put them under 3 different categories. So
This is
laughter
the worst
reduces.
episode we've ever done.
Sorry, Becky Lucas, if you're listening.
No,
your bit was
she's
great,
the
Becky.
shining light. She is the
Yeah.
shining light in this episode. We are dragging it down, I'm afraid to say.
But if people are finding this amusing, how poorly we're going at the moment, that's good news for them. Because
great.
laughter reduces stress and anxiety hormones. It reduces pain levels, reduces muscle tension. It reduces depression or depressive feelings. It also reduces calories, which I don't think are too many calories. But
Gee, you'd have to really laugh a lot. That's a big laugh.
did you go for a run today? Nah, I just had a big laugh.
Nah, just
Really
just
big one.
giggled for 10K this morning. Yeah.
Laughter increases brain function, focus, and memory. It increases endorphin levels, connection with others, and creativity, apparently. And I totally agree with that. As in, not totally agree. I've felt that. I feel like when you're really finding something very funny, it's a very creative. I don't need to say this to you, Ryan. It's just you make a living out of this.
No, but I think what you're talking about is when you're watching something else. And me writing jokes or doing something that is funny is completely different than consuming something else, obviously, that is funny.
Yeah.
It just makes me think about that. I think Becky touched on it a little bit, but that shared experience of going to a comedy show and being in a theater it's such an equalizer, and it's such I love that experience so much of going to the comedy festival in Melbourne. Pre-COVID, you kind of all pile into this tiny little room in the town hall or somewhere, and there's 30 people in this weird closet of a room.
Yeah.
And watching this person on this tiny stage just put themselves out there. And when it hits, it's just the most incredible experience. I've gone and seen shows of people and walked out feeling. I guess this is what you're talking about. You walk out, and I've never been so inspired. I go home and I start writing myself because I'm I want to do that. I want to. Every year around Comedy Festival, I leave the festival thinking I'm doing a show next year at the Comedy Festival. I never do.
Really?
But I'm just so inspired in the moment because it's just so the atmosphere that those comedians create in that room, no matter what size it is unlike anything. It's just amazing. It's kind of like sport, I guess. It's like watching your team with all the supporters. All of a sudden, you're all on the same team. You're all with strangers. This instant, I guess, a community forms with these people who you've never met. And especially going into a comedy show, you generally, unless you know who the comedian is, but if you're going into a show where you're not really sure if it's going to be any good or not, there's a bit of everyone knows that kind of you're nervous that the comedian's going to be good because you're just worried they're going to be bad. And it's oh no. And there's this sort of unspoken tension in the air of oh, well, hopefully it's good. And then when they are, it's this incredible, everyone's oh, how good is this? Look what we're witnessing. Yeah.
Yeah. There's an incredible connection that laughter creates.
Yeah. That's a great thing.
Yeah. The other thing
that's a great thing. What a weird thing to say.
Anyway,
that's a great
segue.
thing.
The other thing that I found really interesting, and I felt myself and experienced myself, is it says that laughter improves coping skills. And just on the topic of resilience, there's that saying, well, if you don't laugh, you cry. And I think laughter is such a powerful weapon in the face of something really challenging.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off there. Jeez, we are rusty.
That's right.
It makes me think of something that I don't know how applicable it is, and it's probably way too serious considering what you guys just talked about. But I was listening to this Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. I don't know if you've heard of that podcast, but It's probably my favourite of all time.
Oh, yep.
And he's got this...
I can't believe you just said, have I ever heard of it? You tell me about it twice a day for the last 3 years.
Yeah,
Keep going.
yeah. So, so I'm a fan. He does a series on World War One because he's an American podcast. I was fascinated to know what he was going to say about Gallipoli and Australia's contribution. And it really took me by surprise that he said that on any list of soldiers in the history of the world, you would struggle to find any soldiers tougher or more resilient than Australia's First World War soldiers. And I was like...
It does make you feel proud, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
I felt really,
I love that.
really
Yeah.
proud. And he said the reason why is because that they were known for laughing in any circumstance and taking the piss out of absolutely everything. So no matter what in Gallipoli, no matter what the Turks were throwing at them, they would respond with jokes and gags and take the piss out of them, and there was always laughter, no matter how dark and depraved it got. You would always hear an Aussie laughing about something. I mean, how disarming would that be if you were trying to unleash hell? Yeah, I don't know. It just made me think of that, Hugh, because I feel like I don't know. My mind's sort of gone to this place of like we're going through stuff at the moment it's certainly not World War One. That's a ridiculous comparison. No one's shooting at us. No one's trying to kill us. But relatively speaking, we're all going through a tough time at the moment, and I find myself getting really angry about stuff and hearing people say stuff that just makes my blood boil. And I feel like we should probably just be laughing a bit more, like maybe ridiculing people, throwing humour at stuff rather than just getting angry about things so much at the moment.
I've been genuinely consuming my news through Batuta Advocate.
Yeah.
Like that's how I've been. I'm just done with the news at the moment. Nothing against news people. They're doing their job, but it's just everything seems so heavy at the moment. So I'm preferring to look at it through the lens of Batuta Advocate, and it makes me laugh every single time. Part of me goes, "Oh my god," but it's not all doom and gloom when you're laughing at. When you're laughing.
Yeah.
I was thinking before. I don't know if you guys know anything about this or the connection between this, but maybe this is just me. I feel like this happens to some people when something really horrible happens, or you're telling someone something really horrible, and you can't help but smile, even though you don't find it funny.
Oh boy.
It's like
I know
it's
so
the most
I know that as
horrific thing, and I do it all the time, and I'm doing it like I'm smiling now. It just makes me think there must be such a close tie between laughing and crying. Like it's like there's such a close connection there. You're delivering a really horrible news to someone, or you're hearing something really horrible, and you start smiling, and you can feel yourself smiling. Like, this is terrible. This is really bad. Like, I don't find this funny, but it's like a coping mechanism, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah. So Penny and I, this is going back a couple of months, but we don't have many of these. It was quite a heated disagreement on something. My brain just said to me, imagine if you laughed right now. Like, if you laughed, this would be the worst. This would be the worst possible moment to laugh. And I was like, shit, it's going to happen. And she was saying something really heartfelt. She was saying something really heartfelt and quite, well, I'm not going to know the details of it. And I just started laughing. And she goes, and now you're laughing at me. Great. And I'm like, no, I promise. Okay, I'm not laughing. My brain just said to me, imagine if you laughed right now. And then I couldn't not. I could see her going, what the fuck are you talking about?
That would have gone down really well
solves
while
the
she was
problem.
telling you this stuff. While you were just talking, I was thinking.
Yeah. While you're blabbering on about whatever that was.
Yeah, no, don't get angry, Penny, because while you were telling me all that stuff that was from the heart, I was having this inner monologue about laughing. So don't get angry.
I just felt it happening. It was awful. I was like, I can't. My only option was just turn around and face the other way, which I don't know, probably would have been better. But anyway.
But do you think? I mean, maybe someone will know this, but I'm sure there is an answer for this. But it feels like there is a reason why we do that. Why do we do that?
I felt like it was immaturity on my behalf. Like, it was all too much for me emotionally. Like, it was just too much. And my body was like, shut down, just smile, laugh. You like doing that. Just, this is too much.
Yeah,
I don't know. Anyway, I do think we need. I think one of the things we try to do with our show is with our podcast is to have some kind of practical like takeaway. I don't want to patronize people and say, so this is what you should do to laugh. But I do think we need to make some lighter choices at the moment from time to time. When we sit down and choose what we're going to watch on Netflix or whatever it is on television, after dinner and we're trying to choose something, I think maybe we need to make a little bit more of a concerted effort to choose something to laugh at. Penny and I were watching something really heavy for quite some time. And then I think she said, I just want to watch something that makes me laugh. And I think I can't remember which. I was either Curb Your Enthusiasm or something like that. But it was just, I just felt so much different after it. I just felt much better about the world. And I didn't sit there and, analyze it and think, but I just, looking back on it now, I just realized I just felt better about the world when I had a good laugh. So maybe try and make some lighter choices around things like what you're reading, what you're listening to, what you're watching.
I kind of like to always have, because we of course like go through the different shows, the new shows, and we watch the new shows. Like at the moment we're watching this incredible show called Scenes from a Marriage, which is it's an HBO, it's on Binge in Australia. And it is incredible, but extremely heavy. And I think because we're watching that, I thought, let's start watching Seinfeld from the start. Like, let's get that going. Like to always have like a parallel sitcom happening, like as a constant that you can always go like, before I go to bed, it's like, let's just watch an episode of The Office or something.
Yeah.
Let's just balance out the darkness.
Yeah. It's interesting. My choice of, before I go on stage and do the talks, I watch Billy Connolly on YouTube, and I watch it from my shows usually start at 7, so I start watching at 6:40, and I watch for 20 minutes of Billy Connolly, and I've seen it all 1,000 times. All the videos I've seen 1,000 times before. Maybe it's a nostalgic thing, but it just puts me in this headspace where I feel like I've got good verbal fluency. I feel quite sharp. I feel. It's not about looking and going, be funny like him. It's not that at all. It's the emotion it brings out of me. It just puts me in the perfect headspace to go and do something, which is quite difficult. Go and speak for an hour and a half to lots of people.
Well, I mean,
that's what laughter enables me to do that.
Along with Mein Kampf, that's one of the things that's always been your go-to, isn't it? That's always been one of the things that you rely upon to.
Yeah, chapter 4 especially. Chapter 4 is a beauty.
Yeah. So I've absolutely just recycled Becky's joke.
Still works.
I don't care.
Yeah. That's a good one. Good. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, but Billy Connolly is a huge. That was big for even in your family, like for both of you, wasn't it? Like Billy Connolly was a massive thing. Yeah,
yeah.
You've always spoken about that. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I feel like he's probably the main influence in what I've chosen to do with my life. Speak on stage, like I just not as funny as him, but just seeing how when our sister was quite sick, we would often pile onto the family couch and just watch the VHS of Billy Connolly. And Josh, you must have been quite young, so the humour, like
I remember, it felt very naughty. Which, of course, when you're a kid, that's exciting in itself. To hear someone swearing and talking about things you're not usually allowed to talk about, it was just exciting. But I watched a clip the other day that I sent you, Hugh, that I hadn't. I don't think I'd seen it before. I was just shocked at how well. Yeah, I was worried that it might just be a nostalgia thing, that I had this great memory of him, but I rewatched it. Like,
oh no!
Fuck, he is the sharpest, best, one of the best of all time. Like, he's so perfect in everything he does on stage. It's incredible.
I remember watching. I would watch him, but I'd also watch Mum and Dad, who were going through something. As a family, we were going through something pretty difficult with our family being sick. But I'd watch Billy Connolly, and then I'd look at Mum and Dad. They're just in stitches, tears of laughter. And I just think, how's this happened? Like half an hour ago, they were in tears for a very different reason, and now this is just. That to me was just like, this is the most extraordinary thing. Like being able to make people tell stories that make people laugh. And look what it's done to my mum and dad at a very tough time for them. I'm just in awe of that, and I think that had a huge laughter had a unbelievably powerful influence on my life.
There are proper like laughing. I don't know if you call them like camps, but like places that people go. Like we filmed at one in India, where it's like there's like on a stage there's a guy and it's like this thousands of people sitting in the crowd. Laughing therapy, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that over in India when I was there as well. Like it's one of the strangest but most wonderful things you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we got to start laughing more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the practical takeaway is make some lighter choices around what you're consuming, because it's going to make you feel better and cope better in a challenging time.
Well,
Okay.
I cannot wait, for everyone's sake, for Becky Lucas to get back out there and be doing comedy again, because she's brilliant. And thank you, Becky, for doing the podcast.
Her book Acknowledgements is available in. Well, I don't know if you go to bookstores at the moment, but it's available online, and it's a beauty. As I said,
there's an audiobook which I'm listening to. She does the audiobook, and
is it?
Her reading it, obviously.
Yes, that'd be great.
Great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good to chat again. We're a little bit rusty tonight, but that's okay. It's been a while.
Yeah. Apologies, everyone. We were off. We know I mean, luckily Becky was great. We were off. There's no doubt about it. Look, maybe Josh, when you edit it, it'll be cleaned up so much
that all this stuff will make
this
no
will
sense.
be so weird. We'll see.
That's true, actually. I didn't think about that.
Well, just know, anyone listening, just know that before Josh fixed it, this was a pile of shit.
See you guys.
Not Becky's bit, our bit. Okay.
Not Becky's bit, our bit.
Okay.
Was an absolute dog's breakfast. And not even a good dog's breakfast. Just like chum. It was just like chum. Past its expiry date, chum.
Hugh, it's Ryan. Well, that was fine, I think. Even though we're a bit rusty, I'm sure Josh will be able to fix up a lot of those things in the edit. But I think it's good. I think it's a good app. But I just wanted to check. Do you think people will notice the fact that I was in full cat face paint and a full cat fur suit? Do you think that is obvious when I was talking? I mean, I was hoping that no one would notice, but just afterwards, I'm just thinking, oh shit, is that going to sound like a cat? Am I going to sound like I'm in a cat outfit? That sounds crazy, but I sort of see if you could tell. Anyway, let me know. It's Ryan Shelton from the podcast.
To call back, press 22. To replay message, press 1 to reply.
If this episode has triggered anything for you around mental health, we strongly recommend Lifeline on 131114. The Imperfects is brought to you by the Resilience Project, produced by Ryan Shelton, Josh and Hugh Van Kylenberg. A very special thank you also to No Mono for allowing us to use their track Keep On as the theme for this podcast.